I woke up that morning with butterflies in my stomach. The good kind. You know that feeling when you're excited about something special? That's exactly how I felt. It was our 10th anniversary, and I had been planning this day for weeks. 10 years. A whole decade with the man I thought I'd grow old with. The sunlight was streaming through our bedroom curtains, creating those golden patterns on the walls that always made our room feel magical. I rolled over to kiss Michael good morning, but his side of the bed was already empty. Cold, actually. He must have been up for a while. I could smell coffee brewing downstairs, and I smiled to myself. Maybe he was making breakfast. Maybe he remembered. Maybe he had a surprise planned too. God, I was so naive. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, still half asleep, just planning to check the time. But there it was. A notification from our bank. First National Bank. The preview read, "Important account activity alert." My heart did this little skip, but not the good kind anymore. We had been careful with our finances. We didn't have alerts set up for normal transactions. This had to be something big. I sat up in bed, suddenly very awake. My fingers trembled slightly as I unlocked my phone and tapped the notification. The full message loaded, and I had to read it 3 times before the words actually made sense. Joint. Account holder Michael Harrison has initiated a transfer of $47,000 to account ending in 8392. Per your joint account agreement, you are receiving this notification. $47,000. Nearly half of everything we had saved together. Our emergency fund, the money we'd been setting aside for the down payment on a bigger house, the cushion that made me feel safe at night. Gone? Or going. The transaction was marked as pending. I felt my chest tighten. There had to be an explanation. Maybe he was surprising me with something incredible, a dream vacation. But $47,000, and why wouldn't he tell me? We told each other everything. At least, I thought we'd do. I threw on my robe and practically ran down the stairs. My mind was racing through possibilities, each one more desperate than the last. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe the bank got it wrong. Maybe someone hacked our account. Please, God, let it be something fixable. Michael was sitting at the kitchen table, still in his pajama pants and old college t-shirt. His laptop was open in front of him, and he was staring at the screen with this expression I'd never seen before. Focused, cold, almost. There was a cup of coffee next to him, steam still rising from it, but he wasn't drinking it. He was just staring. Michael? My voice came out smaller than I intended. Honey, I just got a notification from the bank about a transfer. He didn't look up right away. That should have told me everything I needed to know right there. When someone can't look you in the eye, they're hiding something. Everyone knows that. But I wasn't ready to believe it yet, Michael. I said again, louder this time. Did you transfer money out of our savings? Finally. He looked at me, and the expression on his face, God, I'll never forget it. It wasn't guilt exactly. It was more like resignation. Like he'd been caught doing something he knew he'd eventually have to explain. Sarah, sit down, he said quietly. Not good morning, babe. Not happy anniversary. Just sit down in this voice. That made my blood run cold. I don't want to sit down. I want you to tell me why you just moved $47,000 without telling me. That's our money, Michael. Our savings. What's going on? He closed his laptop slowly, deliberately. Then he reached for something on the chair next to him. A manila folder. The kind lawyers use. He slid it across the table toward me, and I just stared at it like it was a snake that might bite me. I was going to wait until you came downstairs, he said, still in that eerily calm voice. I didn't want to wake you. I thought I'd have everything ready and we could talk like adults about this. My hands were shaking as I picked up the folder I already knew. Somehow, in the part of your brain that knows things before your conscious mind catches up, I already knew what was inside, but I opened it anyway. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The words were right there at the top in official legal print. Petitioner, Michael James Harrison. Respondent, Sarah Elizabeth. Harris in the room started spinning. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. What is this? I whispered, even though I could read perfectly well what it was. Michael, what the hell is this? I'm filing for divorce, he said, like he was telling me he was running to the store for milk. I've already submitted the paperwork. You should be served officially within a few days. But I wanted to tell you myself, I thought that was the right thing to do. The right thing to do. The right thing to do would have been literally anything else. The right thing to do would have been to talk to me, to go to counseling, to give me any indication that he was unhappy. But no, apparently the right thing to do was to file divorce papers on our anniversary without any warning whatsoever. I don't understand. I said, and I hated how my voice cracked. Michael, it's our anniversary. It's our 10th anniversary. Is this some kind of sick joke? He had the decency to wince at that. The timing isn't intentional. Sarah, the lawyer, had an opening, and I took it. I didn't realize until yesterday what date it was. He forgot our anniversary. In the process of planning to divorce me, he forgot our anniversary. That almost hurt worse than everything else. Why? I managed to ask. Why are you doing this? I thought we were happy. I thought we were fine. Did I do something? Are you, are you having an affair? No. He said quickly, no, there's no one else. This isn't about you doing anything wrong. I just, Sarah. I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a long time. Then why didn't you tell me? I was crying now, hot tears streaming down my face. Why didn't you say something? We could have fixed this. We could have tried. I don't want to fix it, he said. And those words hit me like a physical blow. I don't want to try. I want out. I want to start over. I'm 34 years old, and I feel like my life is already over. I can't do this anymore. I sank into the chair, still clutching that folder like it might somehow make more sense if I held it tight. Enough. The money, I said numbly. Where did you send the money? To my personal account, he admitted. The one I opened last month. Last month, he'd been planning this for at least a month. Opening secret accounts, moving our money, filing papers, all while I was planning anniversary surprises and thinking about our future. That's our savings. I said, that's half mine, and you'll get your half. He said, this is temporary. Until the assets are properly divided, my lawyer said I needed to secure my portion before formally filing. It's just business, Sarah. It's not personal. Not personal. The man I'd loved for over a decade, the man I'd built a life with, was divorcing me on our anniversary and stealing our savings. And he was telling me it wasn't personal. Get out, I whispered. What? Get out. I screamed at this time, and I saw him flinch. Get out of this house. Get out of my sight. I can't. I can't even look at you right now. Sarah, be reasonable. This is my house too. We need to figure out logistics. I said, get out. I threw the folder at him, papers scattered everywhere, our marriage dissolving literally and figuratively all over our kitchen floor. I don't care where you go. Go to hell for all I care. But you are not staying here. Not today. Not after this. He stood up slowly, and for just a second, I thought I saw something, like regret flash across his face. But then it was gone, replaced by that same cold resignation. Fine, he said. I'll pack a bag and go to Jake's place. But we're going to have to talk about this eventually. Sarah, we're going to have to work out the details. Then we'll talk through lawyers. I spat. Since apparently that's how you prefer to communicate anyway. He left the room, and I heard him walking up the stairs. I sat there at our kitchen table, surrounded by legal papers and shattered dreams. And I just broke. I put my head down on the table and sobbed. Big, ugly, gasping sobs that hurt my chest and made my head pound. How had I not seen this coming? What had I missed? I ran through the last few months in my mind, searching for clues. He had been working late more often. He'd been distant during dinner, always on his phone. He'd stopped asking about my day. He'd stopped initiating anything. Really. No sex, no conversations, no plans for the future. But I'd chalked it all up to stress. He'd been up for a promotion at work. I thought he was just preoccupied. I thought we'd get through it together, like we always had. I heard him come back downstairs, a duffel bag thumping against the wall. I'm going now, he called from the hallway. He didn't even come back into the kitchen. I'll be in touch through my lawyer. The front door opened and closed. His car started in the driveway, and then he was gone. I sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. Eventually, I forced myself to move. I picked up all the papers from the floor, putting them back in the folder with shaking hands. I read through them more carefully this time, trying to make sense of the legal language. That's when I saw it. Page 4. Division of assets and debts. He hadn't just transferred our savings. He'd also, apparently, racked up over $30,000 in credit card debt, in both our names, on cards I didn't even know existed. My phone rang, startling me so badly I nearly dropped it. It was my best friend, Monica. She'd been planning to come over later with champagne to celebrate our anniversary. Hey girl, she said cheerfully when I answered. Happy anniversary! I'm just calling to confirm what time you want me to come by tonight. I got the good champagne, the really good stuff, and Sarah. Sarah, are you crying? Monica, I choked out. Can you come over now? Please? I really need you. I'm already grabbing my keys, she said, her tone shifting immediately to concern. I'll be there in 15 minutes. What happened? Is it Michael? Did something happen to Michael? Yeah, I said bitterly. Something happened to Michael. He became someone I don't even recognize. Monica arrived in 12 minutes. She must have broken several speed limits. She took one look at my face, at the papers spread across the kitchen table, and wrapped me in a hug so tight I could barely breathe. Tell me everything, she said. So I did. I told her about the bank notification, about the divorce papers, about the money and the debt and the complete blind side of it all. She listened, without interrupting, getting angrier and angrier on my behalf. That absolute bastard, she hissed when I finished. On your anniversary? And he moved your money? Sarah? That's borderline illegal. You need to call a lawyer right now. Like, right now. I don't even know where to start, I admitted. I don't know any divorce lawyers. We had a will drawn up years ago, but that was just an estate attorney. I never thought I'd need. My cousin went through a divorce last year, Monica interrupted. Her lawyer was incredible. A real shark. Let me find her number. Within an hour, I had a consultation scheduled for first thing Monday morning with Catherine Chen. Apparently one of the best divorce attorneys in the state. Monica stayed with me all day, making me eat, making me drink water, and most importantly, stopping me from making the drunk phone call I desperately wanted to make to Michael around 3 p.m. Trust me, she said, taking my phone away. Anything you say right now, you'll regret later. And more importantly, anything you say can be used against you in court. Keep it together, Sarah. You're going to get through this. And you're going to come out on top. That night, alone in the house, that suddenly felt enormous and empty. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I kept replaying everything in my mind, looking for the moment it all went wrong. Was it last year, when his mom died and he seemed to pull away from everyone, including me? Was it 2 years ago when he started working those long hours? Or had it been broken for much longer, and I was just too blind to see it? My phone buzzed. Against my better judgment, I looked. It was Michael. I'm sorry about today. I know the timing was awful. I didn't mean to hurt you like this. I just need you to understand that this isn't about you. You're a good person, Sarah. You deserve someone who can love you the way you deserve to be loved. I'm just not that person anymore. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to write back something scathing, something that would hurt him the way he'd hurt me. But Monica's words echoed in my head. Anything you say can be used against you. Instead, I wrote, please communicate through attorneys from now on. And then I blocked his number. That weekend was the longest of my life. I called in sick to work on Monday, which was fine because I had the attorney consultation anyway. Catherine's office was downtown, in one of those sleek glass buildings that scream expensive. Catherine herself was nothing like I expected. I'd pictured some hard-nosed older woman in a severe pantsuit. Instead, Catherine was maybe 40, with kind eyes and a warm smile. But when we sat down and I showed her the papers, that warmth was replaced by a steely focus. That made me understand why Monica's cousin recommended her. Okay, she said, spreading the documents across her desk. Let's talk about what we're dealing with here. First, the transfer of funds. Did you authorize this? No. I didn't even know he'd opened a separate account. Good, that's financial misconduct. We can file an emergency. Motion to freeze all accounts and force him to return half of that money immediately. She made a note on her legal pad. Second, this debt. Do you recognize any of these charges? I looked at the credit card statements she pulled up on her computer. Restaurants I'd never been to. Hotels in cities we'd never visited together. Purchases from stores I'd never heard of. No, I said slowly. None of this is familiar. Catherine's expression hardened. He said there was no affair. That's what he told me. He's lying. These charges, they're classic affair patterns. Hotels, dinners, gifts. Sarah, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your husband has almost certainly been unfaithful. And he racked up debt doing it in both your names. I felt numb. I'd almost convinced myself to believe him when he said there wasn't anyone else. But seeing it laid out like this, in black and white ... how could I have been so stupid? What do I do? I asked quietly. We fight back, Catherine said firmly. We file our response. We freeze the accounts. We force full financial disclosure. We hire a forensic accountant if we need to. And we make sure you get every penny you're entitled to, plus compensation for his misconduct. This isn't going to be quick, and it isn't going to be easy. But I promise you, Sarah, we will get you through this. I hired her on the spot. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and court dates and increasingly hostile emails from Michael's attorney. The emergency motion to freeze the accounts was granted, which meant Michael couldn't touch any more of our money without court approval. That felt like a small victory. But the investigation into the debt revealed things I wished I'd never learned. The hotels weren't just in nearby cities. They were in places he'd told me were business trips. The restaurants were where he'd said he was having client dinners. And the gifts. The gifts were for someone named Jessica. Jessica worked in his office. She was 26 years old, beautiful, and according to her very public social media profiles, very much in a relationship with my husband. There were photos of them together at concerts, at beaches, at romantic restaurants. Some of the photos were dated back over a year. A year. He'd been cheating on me for over a year, maybe longer. And I'd had no idea. I showed the photos to Catherine at our next meeting. She didn't even seem surprised. This actually helps us, she said, which seemed like an insane thing to say. Most states have no-fault divorce, so infidelity doesn't technically matter. But it matters to judges when it comes to asset division and spousal support, especially when he used marital funds to conduct the affair. I want to destroy him, I said, and I meant it. The hurt had been slowly transforming into anger, hot and bright and all-consuming. I want him to pay for what he did. Then let's make sure he does, Catherine said with a small smile. We went to mediation first, which was a complete disaster. Michael showed up with Jessica, which was not only inappropriate but deliberately cruel. They sat together on their side of the table, and I watched him hold her hand, and something inside me just ... snapped. Really? I said, interrupting the mediator's opening remarks. You brought her here, to our divorce mediation. Jessica is my partner, Michael said, with this self-righteous tone that made me want to throw something. She has every right to support me through this. She's the reason we're here, I shot back. She's the reason our marriage ended. And you have the audacity to bring her to this the mediator. A patient woman named Dr. Rodriguez held up her hand. Mr. Harrison, while you're entitled to emotional support during this process, bringing a romantic partner to mediation is highly unusual and maybe counterproductive. I'm not going anywhere, Jessica said, speaking for the first time. She had this squeaky little voice that I immediately hated. Michael needs me. I looked at Catherine, who gave me the slightest shake of her head. Don't engage. Don't give them ammunition. So I sat back and let the mediator handle. Mediation broke down within an hour. We couldn't agree on anything. Michael wanted to keep the house, which was insane because his name wasn't even on the mortgage. I'd bought it before we got married. He wanted to split the retirement accounts 50-50, even though most of the money was from my inheritance. He wanted me to take on half of the debt he'd racked up cheating on me. This is going to trial, Catherine told me afterwards. Which is fine. We'll win more in trial anyway. She was right. When we finally got our day in court 3 months later, it was like watching karma in action. Catherine had hired a forensic accountant who'd traced every penny Michael had spent on his affair. Over $70,000 of marital funds spent on hotels, gifts, trips, and even an engagement ring. An engagement ring. He'd bought Jessica an engagement ring with our money while still legally married to me. The judge was not impressed. Judge Martinez was an older woman with silver hair and zero tolerance for nonsense. She listened to Michael's lawyer, tried to explain away the expenses, watched Michael squirm on the stand when questioned about his lies, and then delivered her ruling. I got the house. I got 70% of the remaining marital assets. I got him ordered to pay back the full amount he'd transferred from our savings, plus interest. I got 3 years of spousal support, and I got stuck with none of the debt he'd created that was all his to pay back. Michael's face when the judge read the ruling was almost worth everything I'd been through, almost furthermore. Judge Martinez added, looking directly at Michael over her glasses. I find the petitioner's conduct throughout this marriage and divorce proceeding to be reprehensible. Using marital funds to conduct an extramarital affair, hiding assets, and attempting to saddle the respondent with debt she didn't create shows a fundamental lack of character. This court hopes you've learned something from this experience. Mr. Harrison, though I have my doubts. Jessica wasn't at the trial. According to office gossip that Monica had gleefully reported to me, their relationship had imploded about a month earlier when Jessica found out Michael was broke and in massive debt. Apparently, she'd thought he was wealthy. The irony was delicious. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt ... lighter. Not happy. Exactly. The wound was still too fresh for that, but lighter. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for months, and I'd finally been allowed to set it down. Drinks? Catherine suggested. I think this deserves a celebration. Absolutely, I said. We went to a wine bar downtown, and Catherine ordered a bottle of something French and expensive. 2 new beginnings, she said, raising her glass. 2 new beginnings, I echoed. That was 8 months ago. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime, and sometimes it feels like yesterday. The divorce was finalized 6 months ago. The house is mine, really mine now. I painted the bedroom a color Michael always hated as soft sage green. That makes me happy every time I walk in. I got a dog, a golden retriever puppy I named Sunny. I started taking pottery classes on Thursday nights. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with over the years. And slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice it happening. I started to feel like myself again. Not the self I was when I was married. The self I was before that. The self I'd forgotten existed. Last week, I ran into Michael at the grocery store. It was bound to happen eventually. We live in the same city, shop at the same places. I saw him first, coming around the corner of the cereal aisle, and my immediate instinct was to turn and walk the other way. But then I stopped myself. Why should I be the one to leave? Why should I let him have that power over me? So I stayed right where I was, and I watched him notice me. His face went through several expressions in quick successions. Guilt, discomfort. He looked older than I remembered. Tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Sarah, he said awkwardly. Hi, Michael. I kept my voice. Neutral, how have you been? He asked, and he actually seemed like he wanted to know. I've been really good actually, I said, and realized it was true. Life is good. He nodded, shifting his weight from foot to foot. That's good. I'm glad. Look, Sarah, I've been wanting to reach out, to apologize, for everything. I handled everything terribly, and you didn't deserve any of it. A few months ago, I would have wanted to hear this. I would have felt vindicated, victorious. But standing there in that grocery store, looking at this man who I'd once loved so completely, I just felt ... nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just nothing. Okay, I said simply. Thank you for saying that. He seemed surprised by my lack of reaction. I just ... I want you to know that I know I messed up. I threw away something good, and I know that now. I was an idiot. Yes, you were, I agreed. But it's in the past now, Michael. We've both moved on. I hope you find whatever it is you were looking for. I meant it to, not because I forgave him. Exactly. But because I no longer needed his apology or his regret or his realization that he'd made a mistake. I didn't need anything from him at all. Take care of yourself, I said, and I walked past him to the checkout. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I felt calm. I felt free. That night, I sat on my back, porch with Sunny at my feet and a glass of wine in my hand, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. My phone buzzed with a text from Monica asking if I wanted to join her for dinner tomorrow. Then another text, this one from my pottery class instructor, saying my latest piece had turned out beautifully. I had a life now, a real life, full of people who cared about me and activities that brought me joy and possibilities that excited me. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It wasn't the future I'd imagined when I woke up that anniversary morning, expecting breakfast in bed and maybe a piece of jewelry. But it was mine. Completely, wholly, undeniably mine. And, you know, what? That bank notification that had shattered my world that morning, ... In a strange way, it had saved me. If I hadn't seen it, if the bank hadn't alerted me to that transfer, Michael would have controlled the narrative. He would have taken our money, filed his papers, and caught me completely off guard without any time to protect myself. Instead, that notification gave me a head start. It gave me time to think, to plan, to prepare. It gave me the anger I needed to fight back instead of just rolling over and accepting whatever scraps he wanted to throw me. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd woken up just a little later that morning. If I'd come downstairs after he'd already left, if I'd never seen the notification until it was too late. But then I remind myself that what ifs don't matter. What matters is what actually happened. And what actually happened is that I survived. I fought back. I won. I'm not going to lie and say I'm grateful for what Michael did. I'm not going to spin this into some story about how betrayal was the best thing that ever happened to me. It wasn't. It hurt like hell. And some days it still does. But I learned things about myself through this process. I learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that I can stand up for myself when it matters. I learned that love isn't enough if it's only coming from one person. I learned that sometimes the end of something is actually the beginning of something better. And I learned that I'm perfectly capable of being happy on my own. The divorce papers that had destroyed my world that anniversary morning ultimately set me free. They ended a marriage that was already over, whether I'd known it or not. They forced me to see the truth about someone I'd idealized for too long. Sometimes at night, when I can't sleep, I still think about that morning. I think about the person I was when I woke up hopeful, excited, naive. I think about the moment everything changed. The way your whole world can shift in the seconds it takes to read a single text message. But then I look around. My bedroom with its sage green walls, at Sunny snoring softly at the foot of my bed, at the pottery pieces I've made sitting on my dresser, at the life I've built from the rubble of the old one. And I think maybe that morning wasn't the end of my story after all. Maybe it was just the end of a chapter. A painful, difficult chapter that I'm glad to have closed. Because the next chapter, the one I'm writing now, this one's going to be so much better.